So yeah, whenever you see people making like claims about this, and confident, clear claims about it, you can kind of just assume that they're lying about it, because they're trying to use it as a piece of propaganda to attack people that are criticizing Israel. Just there's a lot of dark thoughts being propagated in our media system. You have this freaking monster, Randy Fine, advocating for the nuclear bombing of Gaza, saying that in World War II, we nuked Japan, and we have to do the same to Gaza. So he's advocating for the nuclear bombing of Gaza. Just complete racist piece of shit. He likes to flaunt his racism and to talk like it's a positive, like a positive attribute that he has. Look at this. We live in a scary world where the radical left, Muslim terrorists, and encourage political violence. Dude, you stand for everything that your voter base is the. That's why I want to give a huge shout out to Flagler, and the entire Flagler sheriff team for keeping me safe yesterday. Oh my god, did they gangbang you, dude? They're keeping you safe. Little. Where's this? Just 7 weeks in Congress and I've already pissed off Hamas and Islamic Jihad. I must be off to a good start. Hamas Islamic Jihad denounced U.S. Congressman's racist remarks on Gaza. Yeah, dude, they're calling you racist. That's not a good thing. Like, come on. Like, you can say, if they're like, oh, you like Jews too much, then you can be like, wow, I'm just too loving. I've pissed off these extremist organizations. But no, they're calling you a racist piece of shit. That's not a good thing. Muslim terror has come to our nation's capital. Muslim terror. Wait, wasn't his name Elias Rodriguez? Was he even Muslim? Elias Rodriguez. Or Elias Rodriguez. Who is Elias Rodriguez? The American Jewish Committee. This is gonna be good. What to know about the anti-Semitism that... Okay, once again, this is like an Islamophobic thing. The guy says free Palestine and they're like, oh, he must be anti-Semitic. That is obviously the conflation of support for Israel and anti-Semitism. So we know what happened. Who is the shooter? He worked as a researcher. He worked for the American Osteopathic Information Association. Manifesto defending violent action against Israel was posted to X by an account under the name Elias Rodriguez. Okay, like, I don't think there's any evidence he was a Muslim. Just saying, Rodriguez isn't really a Muslim last name. Okay, when Free Palestine turns violent, he shouted, Free Palestine is seen in a video of his arrest. This underscores a dangerous and growing reality. The relentless demonization of Israel poses a tangible threat to Jews around the world. Well, here's something that you can do to fight against that. If Israel is a shitty country and it's killing people and people don't like it, stop saying that all Jews around the world are represented by that. Like, pretty easy solution right there. I mean, another easy solution is, if you insist on saying Israel represents all Jews around the world, then maybe you should try to make it so Israel isn't as disgusting as it is right now. That same phrase has been used to repeatedly vandalize Jewish institutions, synagogues, and Jewish ritual items. Jews posting holiday greetings on social media often garner anti-Israel harassment in the comments, including phrases like Free Palestine. How can you do anti-Israel harassment? The phrase can be used as a call for a Palestinian state through nonviolent means, but when it is weaponized to harass Jews or justify murder, it cannot be seen as benign political speech. So, I mean, once again, I think the thing that you can criticize in that murder is the act of killing those people, not the like, I love the idea that it's not a gun issue in this country, or like a mental health issue, or even an issue of conflating Judaism with a genocidal nation state, but it is, he shouted Free Palestine, and that's the problem. Anyway, let's see, Randy Fines. U.S. Congressman calls to nuke Gaza. Oh, I wrote nuke Israel.
The fact of the matter is the Palestinian cause is an evil one.
Yeah, and Congressman, there is a ceasefire deal on the table right now that the White House is hoping both Israel and Hamas will sign on to. Does this shooting change anything when it comes to the course of the war or the negotiations to end it?
Well, I think it speaks to the importance of the only end of the conflict is complete and total surrender by those who support Muslim terror. In World War II, we did not negotiate a surrender with the Nazis. We did not negotiate a surrender with the Japanese. We nuked the Japanese twice in order to get unconditional surrender. That needs to be the same here. There is something deeply, deeply wrong with this culture, and it needs to be defeated.
So we nuked the Japanese twice. That needs to be the case here. So you have a sitting congressman calling to nuke Gaza. You have Benjamin Netanyahu saying free Palestine is today's hail. I mean, holy shit. They're just getting more and more masked off. And so we can watch a little bit of this. I did want to watch something like this. I wanted to cover some of these things. I wanted to, since we're looking at Norman Finkelstein a little bit, I wanted to get his reaction to the Israeli embassy shooting.
So much going on in Gaza, atrocities day by day. I feel a little, it feels a little inhuman to talk about 2 deaths in Washington when there's hundreds, thousands of deaths going on in Gaza. But what is your reaction?
Well, my first reaction is that before a public, you have a responsibility not to just throw the ball. You have to have the facts and then make a careful evaluation on the basis of the facts. When I first read about it this morning, my initial reaction, I thought it had occurred at the Israeli consulate. And I assumed it was a Palestinian who had committed the action. And my first reaction was to remember, I don't know if you folks will know, the fellow Herschel Grinspan. He was the one who assassinated the second-level diplomat in the German legation, I think it was in Paris. And he was Jewish, Herschel Grinspan, and that triggered Kristallnacht. And if you look at the literature on Grinspan, there's a lot of speculation about him. He was an obscure figure. He had reacted to reports about the forced movement of Jews. I think it was either in Germany or Poland. I think it was Poland. I can't remember. In any case, he reacted in sheer horror at what was being done to the Jews. I think it was his parents among them. And he did an act. He went into the German legation in Paris and he shot the second person in charge. Of course, the Germans called it an act of terrorism, and that's what triggered Kristallnacht. In those circumstances, given that he did assassinate a representative of the German government, and as a representative of the German government, he bears responsibility for the actions of the German government. I'm not aware of anybody who condemned Grinspan, and I've read the literature quite closely. I'm not aware of anybody who condemned him for the act, even though you could say it was not a very smart thing to do because it triggered Kristallnacht.
When you say aware of anyone who condemned him, who are you referring to?
Historians. I mean, that was
right, yeah.
it triggered Kristallnacht. So obviously, there's a lot of talk about that incident, or a lot written on that incident. So that was my initial reaction. But then that turned out to be wrong because of 2 things. It didn't occur in the Israeli consulate. It occurred apparently in front of a Jewish museum in Washington. And secondly, it's unclear at this point whether the alleged perpetrator or whether he was even aware that these 2 people worked in the Israeli consulate, or they just happened to be in front of that museum. So that throws a large number of variables into the equation. I did read the alleged manifesto he wrote. Everything alleged.
Oh my God, get him banned. He read the manifesto. He shouldn't exist on the internet.
Because we really don't know. And I have to say, it was at quite a high level of sophistication. He talked about an incident in Guatemala with a Guatemalan doctor who was operating on some patients. And then the Guatemalan, what were they called back then? They weren't called terrorists, paramilitaries. They came into the hospital and they killed the patient. And the doctor commented about how he sees the murderers walking in the streets all the time with that heartless grin. And then he talked about an incident with a figure who was very famous in my generation, the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara. The Vietnam War was famously called McNamara's War. And somebody who sought revenge on him. And I know the Vietnam War like the back of my hand, and I wasn't even aware of this incident. So I'm bringing it all up because there seems to be this big disconnect between a sophisticated manifesto and a fellow just going randomly in front of a Jewish museum in Washington and attempting to assassinate 2 people who presumably he thought were Jewish, although there's no reason even to presume they were Jewish. It could have been just visitors going to the museum. Foggy now. I would say for me, the bottom line is it could have been a nutty guy. That's always possible. Ted Kaczynski, he was a Harvard graduate. The manifesto he wrote wasn't altogether crazy, but he embarked on a crazy project.
I know, the FBI should visit Norman Finkelstein.
One by one assassinating individuals who he believed were responsible for bringing us to the point of destruction. So it could be a smart guy with a crazy project. It could be a crazy guy with a crazy project. I don't really know, but I would leave it there.
It's interesting. I just have to add that one of the victims of the shooting, they were both employees of the Israeli embassy, and one of them is a Christian Zionist who emigrated to Israel from Germany and joined the IDF and became.
Why? I don't know why people say that it was like a random shooting. The guy wasn't just he didn't just run into the actual Jewish museum and start shooting it up there. It seemed like he was waiting for people. So I mean, obviously there's an investigation happening, but a lot of claims are being made about this with no evidence. Claims of anti-Semitism, claims of Muslim terror when there's no evidence that the guy is Muslim, at least any of these articles that I've read, but people are just willing to say that it is Muslim terror because it fits their agenda. So yeah, whenever you see people making like claims about this, when confident, clear claims about it, you can kind of just assume that they're lying about it because they're trying to use it as a piece of propaganda to attack people that are criticizing Israel. But guys, consider signing up for memberships. It helps me out, helps my editors out. Only $1 a month, so it's really not a big deal. Your name can be green. That will be cool. And thanks for watching, everyone.